nice to see you virtually.
We're about 5 minutes away from each other.
Absolutely. Normally me and Marta have a cup of tea together and a bit of cake generally. So this is a bit novel, isn't it?
It's exciting.
It's exciting. It's really great. Hey everybody, I'm Nissa, the Hypnobirthing Midwife, and I'm here today with Marta. I'm not going to say anything about her because she's so amazing. She can tell you herself. She is actually my business partner as well, so I have to say I love you, Marta, a lot. So a lot of love going on today. So I'll hand it over. Tell us about you, love.
Oh, thank you for having me and taking the time. So I'm a mum. Above everything else, I've got a teenager and a toddler, which you might think is a mad combination of the babysitting situation, eh?
Quite good.
Out. I'm also pregnant, so I've got another one on the way, which is really exciting.
Nice.
And professionally, I do quite a lot. I've been working with families for over 10 years now in many different ways. I started working with vulnerable families, did loads of work at Holloway Prison, for example, which was really exciting. I've got a psychology degree, and then I've become an antenatal teacher. So I'm a teacher for the NCT, and I'm the chair for the local NCT as well. So I don't like to list it because it becomes overwhelming.
Oh, but you do so well. You do so well.
It's really exciting to just spend my life around families, around babies, around parents at such an amazing time. And what I would like to talk about is my sleep consultancy. So I'm a gentle sleep consultant. A lot of emphasis on the gentle. That means that I don't follow any crying methods. It's purely evidence-based sleep training, following babies as they develop and help their parents in a really kind, gentle way, which I think is what we all want.
Oh my God, yeah.
So it's great. It's really great.
Marta has lots of hats, don't you? And yeah, a lot of hats. So I didn't know Marta when I had my daughter. So we met a few years ago, but I wish I had known you because Jazz is an amazing sleeper now. She's 7, amazing. But when she was 0 to 6 months, to be honest, it was quite horrendous. So I was breastfeeding, and she would wake up at the beginning every hour, then every 2 to 3 hours, probably for at least 6 months. And by the end of it, I have to say I was feeling like I was mental, like completely crackers. Is that normal? Is that normal?
Yeah. It's what no one wants to hear, but
right.
Human babies are programmed to wake up frequently. We have longer, short cycles as we become older. When we're babies, we've got around 45-minute sleep cycle. At the end of each sleep cycle, our sleep is very light, so it's very easy for babies to wake up. And they wake up for very good reasons. They wake up to check whether their temperature is okay, whether they're hungry or not. They've got tiny stomachs. And also whether they're safe. So we don't want to get rid of that. We want for them they need to come up from their sleep cycles. That's okay. What we need to encourage them is to then fall back to sleep by themselves. And that's the trick. And that's where sleep training comes in. But like I say, it really doesn't have to involve any crying. It's a very, very gentle approach you can take, and it works beautifully. What we're trying to do is not eliminate the waking up. They will happen, but it's just helping them go back to sleep. And sometimes we get into situations, and this might sound familiar, where we create negative associations. So they wake up, and we go to them, we rock, we feed.
Give them the boob every time.
The boob. And with time, that might create a less positive association. So they might think, okay, I'm awake. What do I need to go back to sleep? Oh, the boob or rocking.
Right.
So then that negative association is created. But very gently, we can start to disassociate and help them find other ways to return to sleep.
So it's to do with programming the brain in a way.
Yes. That's yes, absolutely. And that's it's the beauty of it. If we really take time to think, they've got millions of networks, millions of neurons up there. Not all the networks are formed, and what we're doing is forming those networks.
Wow.
It's really beautiful.
It's science.
And powerful.
Wow. I am a midwife, as lots of you will know. So I mean, I'm always looking after postnatal ladies, and I'm telling them, I normally only see them for 4 weeks. Yes, it's normal to feed every 2 to 3 hours. Absolutely. That's fine. But I think it's when it goes on for a long time, it can make you feel very run down, and your mental health can sometimes be affected. What would you say, Marta? What is a healthy, realistic expectation for, because it changes, doesn't it, from 0 to 4 weeks and then onwards? It's evolving.
Absolutely. I think the key message is it's all phases. And they will all go. You're absolutely right. But yes, we need to stay sane during them and making sure we're helping our babies. One of my key mottos or one of the key things I try to achieve is enabling babies to become confident, independent sleepers. So not forcing them, enabling them. So in the beginning, newborn babies, we expect them to wake up frequently, day and night. That's completely normal. By 12 weeks, they've developed, their biological clock has matured, and they've developed a daytime. So they develop nighttime and daytime. They know when it's daytime, when it's nighttime. By that point, it's really, really important to have a good bedtime routine in place.
Wow, that early, so 3 months.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be challenging or punishing for us as parents. It doesn't have to be 7 o'clock, this is it. It doesn't matter what time it is. Luckily they can't tell the time yet. That doesn't matter. It's just making sure that we distinguish day from night.
Fascinating.
There's lovely, lovely bedtimes you can adopt, having a bath and a feed and a massage, having a lullaby, making it really, really lovely. So it can be a really special time of day where we're allowing babies to wind down. Because sometimes we decide, 7 o'clock, bedtime. They don't know what that means.
I feel like I would like that. I want to wind down from social media and,
Yes, I do know what you mean.
Wow, that's really interesting. So it's very much about developing healthy habits, but actually very early.
Yeah, and gently. It doesn't. If you're not ready, you're not ready. And these things, if they're not a problem, if your baby's sleeping well at night and napping during the day, great, don't worry. But if it is becoming that you're starting to feel, there is something here. You're 12 weeks and now you only fall asleep if I'm rocking you. That's fine. If you don't have a problem with that, that's absolutely fine. If you're starting to feel tired, that's the important thing. If it's affecting you, then maybe try to rock, but then before the baby falls asleep, encourage to go in the cot or the bed.
Interesting. So is it something that you would say when babies get past the 3 months mark is babies should be put down awake rather than...
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a thing.
Who knew?
Right? That's the thing, and I go back to my main key, which is that enabling babies to become confident sleepers. So we're not forcing them. If they're not happy in the cot, we'll pick them up.
Right.
But giving them the opportunity from the beginning to feel confident falling asleep by themselves, that could be a good thing. If they're not confident, if they get upset, then by all means pick up, but give them the opportunity. Okay. Yeah, there's lovely ways we work around to doing that, like, for example, spending time awake and having a good time in the cot. So it's not just a place you go to sleep and be on your own. So you can do lovely things to encourage that. It's almost our perception that they're not going to like to be alone in the cot.
Okay.
That sometimes gets in the way as well. So we can challenge that because it doesn't have to be a bad place. Good place.
It's a great place. God, I love my bed. It's literally my favourite place in the whole world.
Yes, honestly. Yes, absolutely.
Wow, that's so interesting. And then moving on, so 3 months, and then
Yeah.
because if you haven't got those habits by 3 months, you may not have it by 6 months or even 12 months.
Yeah.
And that's when you may have had 6 to 12 months of awful sleep as a parent, as a mum, as a dad. And that can be quite debilitating on you, on your relationship, you know. So from there, I guess, is that when you can start doing more, or what would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is that divide. So we're thinking up to 4 months, we're doing preventative work, and that works really well. Parents tend to ask for help when it's really bad, and it takes longer. It's more upsetting for both parents and babies because it's sort of like reprogramming what babies have learned about sleep. If we go from the beginning, and we call it sleep shaping, so we're getting that really great routine, getting them used to fall asleep by themselves if they feel comfortable doing it. We do that up to 4 months, and then that's great. By 4 months, so between 4 and 6 months, we can start thinking about sleep training. And again, it's in a very gentle way. So we're thinking very holistically about the whole day. Is the baby going out? Is the baby getting sunlight? And, you know.
Oh, right. Okay.
During the day,
thing, isn't it?
It's all really important because we need to think about the biological clock. So we need to know daytime means it's time to have our little naps, but then we wake up and play. Nighttime, it's a longer sleep. So we're thinking about all the things that the baby does during the day. How much is the baby feeding? The baby's not feeding enough during the day. It's going to want to wake up at night to feed. I'm sure you hear that a lot in your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the same with cuddles. If they're not getting enough cuddles during the day, they're going to wake up at night and want reassurance. We need to have these things in place for us to be able to switch off and go to sleep.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So often I see mums postnatally, and I walk into their living room middle of the day, you know, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, curtains are drawn, everything's quiet, everything's dark, and I'm thinking, this is very relaxing, and maybe that's not the best way for helping a baby to develop its rhythms.
Yeah, that's perfect. Really good point. And having a little bit of stimulation as well, that doesn't hurt. And of course, before bedtime, then we wind down.
Right.
Having that little bit of stimulation. And then as they progress, by 6 months, we're thinking, okay, well, if babies are still waking up during the night, then we need to think, why? And it's really important to work that out. Is it because the baby is uncomfortable for any medical reason, and that needs to be checked out before anything else? And then, is it the feeding? Is the baby not being fed enough during the day? Needs more feeding during the night. By 6 months, we would expect babies to be able to go for 5 hours without a feed. Not all, by all means, and this is very individual, so we would always look at for how long can a baby comfortably go without a feed. If we feel, okay, it's definitely 5 hours, then when the baby wakes up during those 5 hours, there's no need for a feed. We've assessed that, and we're sure, and we don't fall into, oh, maybe it's hungry, because now we're sure. So it's really, really important to have a very strong assessment that we can hold on to and believe that.
So it sounds like a lot of it is about assessment. So I know that you're very thorough in what you do, Marta. How does it work?
Yeah, I am, and I think that's a really strong point because of my background. So having the psychology degree, it's all about research and assessing. And then having worked with vulnerable families for so long, for over 10 years, has given me a really strong assessment skills. So what I like to do is look at the baby and the whole family holistically. So I look at the whole home environment, so the practicalities, the logistics of living together. So very simply, is the bedroom dark enough, and or are the sleeping arrangements? But then also, what's the baby's day like? What's the family's day like? What happens with the parent who is at work gets home, and how does that work? Is the baby sort of like thrown in the air because we're really happy it's the end of the day, we're finally together, and then that's there's so many little things. We look at the babies, like I mentioned before, is the baby going out during the day? How much is feeding? I ask parents to keep a diary for about 5 days.
Wow.
That gives us a brilliant idea of where we're at, what we're doing that isn't so helpful, what's going really well. Then we pick on what's going really well and use that, just expand it to the rest of the day and the night. Then I write a personalized sleep plan that's specifically for that baby, for that family. So the routines will be what that family needs. There's a lot of discussion with the parents. I don't take ownership over anything. I feel it's really important to empower parents to feel comfortable with whatever we decide. And then it's putting it into place. So the first time the parents have the sleep plan and start using it, I can either have a really thorough conversation beforehand, or I can be there with them, either bedtime or the whole night, or naps if the main problem is naps. And I'll be assessing as well while I'm there. How is it going? Is the baby picking up on little signs like the parents getting nervous, for example? And that's completely normal, and we even get cross because it's torture, isn't it, not sleeping?
Oh my god, it's literal torture, isn't it, being woken up?
It's tricky to keep your cool if it's been 6 months or a year.
Absolutely.
So and then the baby picks up on that, so thinking about all the little things, all the little subtle problems that might be happening, and eliminating them one by one. So when we do all of that, there's no need for crying it out methods. There's absolutely no need. You're addressing every little problem, and the solutions are fairly easy to find.
When you're methodical. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And we don't look at sleep as a culture like that, do we, at all? You know, it's just you're awake all day and then you go to bed and you sleep, and that's it. In my mind, I've never really thought about all those things that might have an impact. It's pretty big, isn't it?
It's where babies are at as well, just like with us. So if we have a hard day at work, or we've just learned something new, that night it's going to be hard to sleep because the mind is processing everything. So by 6 months, babies are doing all sorts.
Sure.
So at night, the mind, that brain is going overwork. They're working so hard. So it might be that could be a problem for sleep. But we can really, that's fine. We can work with it. And it is important to acknowledge where babies are at. So they're not troubled babies. They're not bad babies. They're going through something. And if we assess, if we think really hard about it, then we find what it is and we deal with it. So a really, really easy tip would be, for example, if a baby is learning a new skill, so the baby tends to focus during the day on that new skill. Towards wind down time, try to cut that out.
Right.
So okay. The sitting, or try to hold, lie down, do different things so that the brain isn't processing that last hour of whatever skill that's being practiced.
It relates so much to like grown up.
Right?
Like I turn my work phone off, or my phone, I call it my work phone. I turn it off at 7 normally, most of the time, and I put it in the other room. And I don't look at it, or I try to. Occasionally I'm naughty and then I get in trouble for my partner. But it's the kind of the same, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so thinking about, people that I've chatted to lately. So I was in the playground the other day doing the school run, and there was a lady there who had, I think, daughters 2 or 3, something like that. And she said she was so knackered, and she said to me, I was woken up 5 times last night, through the night. And, she's in pain. So obviously I passed her your number. But in that kind of circumstance, do you provide care up until a certain age, or how does it work in terms of service? Yeah,
absolutely. I love toddlers, and I love working with toddlers. And the reason for that is we use everything that we've talked about so far. Of course, certain things are less relevant. Their biological clock is well and truly set. Naps are not so much an issue, but we same principles apply. So we're thinking about the whole day. How's nursery like if they are at nursery? What's the feeding like? Are they getting enough cuddles? Are they getting enough attention? All of that. So we do that. But then we can bring in play. So think about, and that's how this is sounding silly, but that's how children learn, through play. So we're thinking, how can we put the message of a great night's sleep through play? There's so much we can do. There's so much we can do. We can use books to our advantage a lot more than with younger children. So reading bedtime stories is very, very useful. And allowing children, so not just us reading, but allowing children to tell us the story. So once we've read the story a couple of times, asking them what's happening here. So what the toddler is doing is processing that. So not only is he being a receptive learner, he's then processing and teaching it back to you.
Wow.
So when he goes to sleep because it's bedtime and because he's tired, that sort of thing. So books are really useful. Wind down is paramount. And if you can, a long wind down period. No screens, so it's recommended that children don't have the TV on for a couple of hours before bedtime. And I know that's tricky because we've got dinner to cook, a lot of parents are back at work. I know that's really difficult, but if you can think of other things, and I've got loads of ideas, I love this area of my work, loads of ideas of how to entertain them without the TV. That's really important.
That sounds so good, because it's just sometimes you just end up doing it, don't you? And so Jazz goes to bed at 7:30, so from 5:30, quite often she will be having a bit, maybe not all the way through, not past dinner, but that's really interesting. Oh, that sounds like a.
And if it's not a problem, like for Jazz and my 14-year-old, definitely not a problem. She'll be on all night if she can help it. That's fine. They're past that.
Okay.
But if you recognize that there is a problem, then cutting down on screen time, cutting down on lighting, just going for reduced warm glows, then bringing in the play. So during the day, and if the children are already at nursery full time, during the weekend, having a little play around sleep, putting the teddy bears to sleep.
Okay, nice.
And allowing them to do it, especially as they get older. But from 2, they might be telling you why the teddy bear isn't sleeping. So you can pick up on that.
Wow, really?
The teddy bear is having a bad dream, which possibly could relate to the reason why they are waking up.
That's amazing.
That is very useful. And something else, if we get into 2-3-year-olds, we have to think about nightmares. They're pretty common. So if they have a nightmare, if they wake up crying, they're actually awake, then asking them why are they awake, what happened. Just listen. You don't need to say a lot. Just reassure them, help them back to sleep. So you're not entering into a conversation. You're not offering treats, because now it's nighttime. You are still treating it as nighttime. As quickly as you can, back to sleep. Reassure. That's really important. It's really challenging to have a bad dream for the first few times. You don't know what it is, and you think it's real.
Wow.
And then in the morning, having a good chat about it, it's really useful. I'll give you an example. A 2-year-old I've been working with recently was having bad dreams with snakes. Snakes were coming in. So after a chat, Mum went to IKEA and bought the massive snake. A lot of people have seen that snake. It's a really huge, big, long snake. And they played with the snake. And the way we organized that play was the little boy was going to have to control the snake. So the snake was trying to fight, and he was controlling the snake. So he had power over the snake.
Amazing.
And the dream went, so he sort of won. There's loads and loads of things. There's cool stuff like monster spray. You can spray in your room. There's lots of things. It's really important to be very creative with toddlers. It's brilliant.
That sounds like, obviously, it's work, but so much fun as well.
It's fun. It's fun. And it works fairly quickly.
Okay.
It's and because by that point they can verbalize, we can use that.
Yeah, Marta, that's incredible. Wow, they've just kind of blown my mind there about So let's see, what kind of services do you offer? Because I know you do different things. So for parents out there who need some support, need a bit of help, what would you provide for them?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to work out is whether we can work together. It's really important. I don't feel I'm definitely not a whisperer. I am no expert. I believe that the parents are the experts.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get to know each other. So I like to do this. I offer a free 20-minute consultation. And that's just it. It's checking that parents are comfortable with my methods, with the way I work. Mm-hmm. And I like to work out whether parents are ready for it. For example, sometimes parents call with a 3-day-old, and we have a little chat, and I help as much as I can. And that's absolutely fine, and I'm really glad people reach out. But I feel that maybe in a few weeks' time, it would be better use of their money to hire me. And we talk a little bit about just sleep shaping, and I'm happy to give that advice. And then, of course, if they want to, they'll come back to me. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's the free consultation. I'm really happy to do it so that parents feel confident. I don't believe in just hiring somebody off the internet. I don't want to be that person. I want to be somebody that they know and they trust from the word go. So I like that. And then, of course, then we get into the good stuff. So I offer either telephone consultation or home visits. And the home consultations, the home visits can be either at a convenient time or at nap time, if they want me to observe a nap and assess it, or at bedtime, and that's super useful because I'm checking out how that works and then giving support. Or it could be a whole night consultation, so I stay the night and work out through whatever major issues are happening. And that's a good one. It's great because the difficulty often is you feel the children are ready, and that's something we'll always assess first. We've got to feel children are ready for this and parents are ready. And then I'm there to help parents stay consistent. And that's really important. We mustn't send mixed messages when we're sleep training.
And I can imagine
programming.
Yeah, it's so easy just to kind of do the easy thing, but actually long term, I guess. Do you see that parents?
Absolutely.
They want to.
Yeah, and me as a mum, I remember that, and that meant I wasn't ready yet. So it is just making, and by ready I mean not in my mind, in parents' minds. They need to be ready. They need to feel. Now's the time. It won't be easy. I'm going to have to spend a week where I'm not sleeping very well, but it means that in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to have a good night's sleep. Mm-hmm. It's often related to going back to work. The pressure's on, and a lot of mums around us go back to work at 3 months, 6 months. So it's, that pressure is on.
Yeah, it's not easy at all.
It's not easy.
Wow! So you do lots of different ways of working, and you live in East London, round the corner from me. So hello. So in terms of, I guess you can do some of that is all done over the phone or online.
Yeah, Skype as well. Yeah,
Skype, yeah.
I mentioned that, so we do Skype, which is great. And sometimes parents show me the monitors, and I can see the babies asleep.
Oh.
And, check little things like movements. A lot of babies have jazz hands, so they do this and wake themselves up. Or their eye movement, how they're starting to wake up. That's working really well. I forgot to mention, I also do work with newborns. So up to 4 months, we won't do any training, but we can certainly think about sleep shaping. So I've worked with parents around 6 weeks, for example, with a lot of success, where it's the preventative. So we're just putting everything in place so that we're trying to avoid the dreaded 4 months regression and problems later on.
And I guess that sleep shaping would be ideal for a family where mummy's going back to work sooner. So then you're eliminating a problem when actually going back to work's a big thing in itself, isn't it? And that's probably quite a good move, I reckon. That's amazing, Marta. It's so nice. I know what Marta does for a long time, and we're very good friends, but I've never fully known what you do, so that was really a mega. What is the best way for parents to find you or to get in contact, Marta?
So 2 ways. I've got a website, and it's www.gentlesleepconsultant.co.uk. That's probably the best way, because then you can like the Facebook page. I've got a Facebook page, which is the same thing, so facebook.com, Gentle Sleep Consultant. And you can easily find my email doing it that way. On my Facebook page, I give lots of tips and advice, and it's we're building a community of parents who feel the same way, who feel that it's there are alternatives to crying out methods that really are far more effective and cause less.
Yeah.
So it's great to see the parents talking to each other as well in the Facebook group.
Amazing. I wasn't planning to talk about this, but I do come across so many people who are doing controlled crying because they're desperate. You know, I was there. I'm quite a touchy-feely, parent and very easygoing, but I was so desperate that I did go to that, I went to the Gina Ford place, and I look back now and think, oh my God, how could I have possibly done that? But I did. So yeah, I'm sure you come across parents who are in a similar place.
Yeah, and I'm really passionate, and that's why I qualified as a sleep consultant and then specialized in gentle sleep, because I am so passionate about this. When I had my daughter 14 years ago, I didn't read a book. I followed my instinct. So I went to her when she needed and always responded. We co-slept, I breastfed, and that was my experience. Only after that, I found out that there was another way, and that some parents were adopting this method, and I couldn't understand it. So I did a lot of studying as part of my degree, and then my antenatal teaching. I did a lot of studying and reflecting about this, and now we're in a place where it's really exciting. In 2016, we've got enough evidence from very, very sound researchers that we don't have to do that. It doesn't really work. So just to get it out there, what normally happens is parents are desperate, and they will follow someone with a strong opinion. And so there are a few out there, and that's absolutely fine. And then controlled cry methods mean that we leave our children to cry for a controlled period of time, or until they stop crying.
A really long time.
Feel who you follow, and eventually they stop crying. So what do parents will think? Great, it worked. And this is where we're at now. We've got enough evidence that tells us, it's brain scan evidence that tells us, well, actually, yes, they have stopped crying, but their cortisol levels are as high as if they were crying.
Wow.
So what the baby has learned to do was to stop crying, so that it lowers the heart rate and the oxygen levels go back to a stable level, because that is safer than to continue to cry when it's pointless because the parents aren't responding. So it sounds, I hate saying it, because I know when parents try it, they don't mean to do that.
No,
it's just that the books that advocate it don't mention it. They just mention babies will stop crying, and they self-soothe, which is a myth. They don't have the ability to self-soothe at that point.
Oh yeah, and cortisol, high levels of cortisol. I mean, as a midwife, I've done reading about it is linked, to very high levels for a prolonged time to, possibly depression as an adult, mental health problems. So it's got a long projection of the
effects. There's studies that have followed children for 40 years, so they're now adults. Wow. And you can clearly see, of course we can't eliminate all the other factors. I'm not naive to think that, it's the end of all. But there has been that study that show that there is a difference. So we're more likely to have addiction problems, low self-esteem, not reaching out, which is my biggest concern, is that we are teaching our children to hold it in, not cry. And that's not what we want. No. And parents often tell me, well, I don't, but if I go every time they cry, then they learn that. Yeah. Yeah, it's just how we think about it. Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't want them to cry just so I go. But if they need to cry, I want them to know I come.
Yeah.
And I have a teenager. It's interesting. I have a teenager, so I'm at that point where I really want her to tell me when something's upsetting her. which is really interesting. So I can see the point of doing it in a very holistic, gentle way, and it goes along with baby development theories, with attachment theories. So it's
it's a big one. It's a big one. I think we could chat forever. We must stop.
Oh
We must stop. So everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did, and I learnt lots of really interesting things as well I didn't know. So if you need some support or help or advice, Marta is there on the website, or go to her Facebook page for lots of free resources as well. And we'll be back again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.